Ready?
One.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you, Devin.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
There's something in front of your head right there between you and the webcam or whatever. I'm not sure.
Get me some cigarettes. Okay. I'll sit in class with me.
All right, is that better?
That's better.
Your class.
All right, so as discussed in the meeting yesterday, this tech day will be an introduction to what screen readers are and what they can do.
Okay. Oops.
All right, so a screen reader is, in its basic form, a program that describes what happens on a computer or a phone. I'll call those devices: computers, phones, watches, anything that can have a screen reader. I'll just call them devices. Now, blind people can use computers through the keyboard. They can even use keyboard commands. If without a screen reader, they just wouldn't know what's going on. They can use a touch screen with a screen reader on to describe what's going on with that. And if the screen reader and system support it, they can use a trackpad. But the one thing that they cannot reliably use is the mouse.
Okay.
Now, a screen reader reacts to things. It doesn't do things for us. That means that you have to press a key, like tab to move forward an object, or enter to activate something. A screen reader will not do things for you. It's not a digital assistant. It's not Siri or Google Assistant or anything. It only reacts to events. Screen readers can also be, can either be built into a system like narrator or voiceover or Chromevox, narrator on Windows, voiceover on the Mac, or Chromevox on a Chromebook, or they can be built by a third-party developer, that being somebody outside of the system company that we're talking about, either Microsoft or Google or Apple. Somebody outside of that develops a screen reader for the system that may be better or maybe different than the company's offerings, like NVDA or JAWS, or Windows is dead now, so I can't include that. But NVDA and JAWS are good examples of the third-party screen reader that is better than Narrator on Windows. And there aren't really any third-party screen readers on Mac or Chromebook systems, because they're pretty locked down, and so they can't really be hacked into like that by third-party developers. Now, Linux is a bit different. They have Orca for Linux, and it's developed by people who develop a desktop service for it, but they're still pretty much a third-party developer. So, how screen readers work is they gather data from the system, the operating system like Windows or Mac or Chromebook, Chrome OS rather, and they can also gather data from programs that are running. And data is pretty much all it knows. It doesn't know about what is actually shown on the computer. It doesn't literally read the screen. It reads data from the program that it asks for. Like it may ask for what's currently being focused on, and the screen reader, the system may reply, well, there's a text area inside of a window, inside of the desktop manager, all that kind of technical stuff. But that's just, I'm just showing you that, it doesn't know what's really on the screen. It just knows data. So, and that can be rather detrimental when the operating system or the program doesn't provide the data that a screen reader needs. And that's how we get programs that aren't very accessible or easy to use. So, screen readers present that information using speech, a computer voice, or braille display to the user, and they try to clean it up a little. They try to clean it up a little bit, but it's still rather hard to get used to when you're first starting out with a screen reader. So, doing a quick list of screen readers, if I, making sure that I've got everything. NVDA, JAWS, Narrator for Windows, VoiceOver for Mac, Orca for Linux, and Chromevox for the Chromebook. Now, some of them display things a little bit differently than others. For example, with screen readers like Narrator and VoiceOver and Chromevox, you're encouraged to use screen reader commands to read the screen, as it were, and with screen readers like NVDA and JAWS, you usually are encouraged to use keyboard commands provided by Windows. So that's the two main ways of how screen readers differ, and they differ that way on the web as well. With NVDA and JAWS, and in some cases Narrator, you read web pages like a document, like they're displayed one line at a time, and you just arrow down through them. With VoiceOver and Chromevox, you read one item at a time, like a paragraph or a link or a button. So it's a little bit more visual in nature, whereas NVDA and JAWS, you read it like a document. So it's a little bit more linear in nature. And also, the screen readers read the web a little bit different for each one too. NVDA and JAWS try to grab information from the code of the website to structure things, whereas VoiceOver and Chromevox, they grab the information from the web browser. So things are a little bit different for each one, but they're not so different that you have to learn completely different navigational techniques. They all show the same things, just in different ways. Also, pertaining to documents, screen readers, most screen readers allow the user to hear information on how text is formatted, like headings, italics, bold, and underline. And it sounds a bit like italics on this, italics off. So it's a little bit wordy, and I find it distracting. But that's how screen readers speak formatting. Now, you have to enable those settings, but they can be enabled. Now the slightly cooler stuff. Most screen readers come with, nowadays, come with the ability to recognize text in pictures or programs that aren't really that accessible in the first place. And that allows us to get even more access to information. Those screen readers are NVDA, JAWS, narrator, and voiceover. Somehow Google, the AI first company, hasn't quite got onto that AI bandwagon yet, but hopefully they will soon. So let's see if there's anything else. Nope, that's the end of that. So are there any questions, anything else that y'all may want to know about screen readers, anything else?
What's the most popular screen reader that's usually used? NBA or Chromebox?
All right, so it depends on who you ask.
Okay.
And it kind of I would say the most popular is voiceover on the iPhone, and then there's NVDA on Windows computers. Of course, Freedom Scientific, the developers of JAWS, will say that JAWS is the most popular screen reader, but I kind of have my doubts, as and that's a good topic as well. JAWS is $1,099, so it's not something you would buy at Walmart. So and NVDA is free, VoiceOver is free, Chromevox is free, Orca of course is free. So it's kind of a moving target sometimes, but I would say that the iPhone being as popular as it is, the voiceover on the iPhone is most popular, followed by NVDA on Windows.
Okay, thank you, sir.
It's kind of a Coke versus Pepsi thing, and really
Yeah.
it's whatever you use first. And what we like to do, thankfully, back in the days when it was just like in Windows, it was mainly like JAWS and WindowEyes, and they had a vast difference in their keystrokes. So it was very complicated. Everybody's moved kind of close on the keystrokes, and they're easier to learn and navigate or switch between.
Right.
We could go into another whole open source versus closed source topic also, which makes it very interesting. NVDA is open source. One of the reasons why it doesn't cost, it's free as in speech, not only free as in cost. So
Right.
people all over the world help contribute to its development and testing. Ideally, when y'all use that and you find that there's problems, you can let the developers know, and they can actually do repairs and take your input. So it's an interesting model, and probably one day we could cover open source technologies, Devin, in one of these, and talk about Git and how people do versioning and collaborate around the world on the same piece of software, and you have thousands of people writing code at the same time on the same product. It's real neat how they do that.
Yeah, and it's also interesting how one open source project is used in another, like the Rail codes that NVDA uses are a part of a project called LibLouis, and that is actually used in iOS now, the iPhone, and in JAWS, and in
Embosser to
yeah.
translate directly from the Embosser. So a lot of other products, and they're branching off. And like I say, we can do this on a whole subject because we're looking at open source hardware now. And what I'm excited about is open source medicine. If y'all do some Googling about the coronavirus and open source medicine, there's some exciting things happening there where some big pharma company doesn't own the solution, and or they're trying to recoup millions of dollars of development on our backs. So lots of good things in the open source world.
Yeah, and honestly, that's how it should be. Don't let bigger companies control it.
Well, the only big problem is that for accessibility purposes, open source isn't always the best. I mean, Linux is a free and open source operating system, and its accessibility isn't quite there yet.
Yeah,
So,
true.
For big projects, sure, open source is great, but for smaller ones, it's not always the
Devin,
best.
you just got to roll your sleeves up and start contributing better.
Well, I also have to learn. Will they use C++, C something?
C++.
Yeah, C++. So yeah, if you want to contribute, you have to know how to program, and there are good folks on learning to program, learning to code in Python. That's what I'm learning right now.
There's other ways to
Attempting to
contribute.
try to learn.
You can do pull requests. You can, like I say, testing and just pick a project, get in there and start issuing not pull requests, but putting issues in their project. And like I say, Devin, I think I'd like for people to learn more about open source and about GitHub and
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely do a thing about that. And one actual progress thing that I've done is there was a project called Easy Jekyll, and that basically allows me to write to my blog in the text editor that I like. And it didn't work with the accessibility program I used. So I wrote an issue about that on their GitHub, and they fixed it. So sometimes smaller projects can be more amenable to accessibility requests and stuff like that. So it may be if you have an app that's open source, you find an app that's open source, you find it's not accessible. Write to the developers, and I might do a whole thing on just contacting developers, how to give good feedback, stuff like that, because it is important for the apps you use and how to tell developers how to improve things.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, that's like with the Mac operating system. You were talking about using the mouse or a trackpad. The trackpad commander with a Mac, you can actually tune it in to where instead of it reading a paragraph at a time, it'll read one sentence at a time, or basically one line at a time. And I use it quite a bit with reading like text documents that I get, certain emails, different things like that. And I don't know if JAWS has that function or not. I haven't dove that deep into it, but with a Mac, I mean, I've run into a couple of issues with VoiceOver and just call Apple, and they'll give you an email to the engineering department. You shoot them an email, and within 2 or 3 days, usually that issue is fixed if it can be fixed.
Right.
I mean, I've run into a few problems like when they done the new I think it was iOS 13. There was a few little hiccups with it, and as soon as some of us started shooting emails to them, within 2 or 3 days, boom, we get another update, and it's just for the accessibility features. But I mean, it's like Devin said, most of the time VoiceOver is going to be your most popular one because of the iPhone and the iPad's popularity, and two, with the Mac, it's just a lot easier to use to me than the JAWS. I haven't used NVDA, but I know just normal web browsing, doing different things, VoiceOver seems to be easier for me to use. And it may not be that way for everybody. It's just whatever you get started on will usually be what you tend to lean on a little bit more.
Everybody's got their comfort zone, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
we could all talk about you know, the different operating systems. Most people, Devin, probably are not familiar with Linux. So we got a different topic. And anything we bring up in these meetings, you know, you'd like to learn more about, again, shoot us an email. You know, we definitely would love to talk about any kind of technology. If anybody doesn't have any questions, you know, I think we're at a good stopping point. Do y'all have anything y'all want to say or cover?
No, not
No,
at this
sir.
time, sir.
No, I think I'm good.
I'm good.
All right, guys, I appreciate
I
it.
don't think so.
You know, and
Joel, did Francis join?
no, I think we missed Francis.
He was the main one that wanted to learn about this.
Well, and you know, I think if everybody, you know, we need to be checking our email. We got those few apps we recommend y'all installing. You know, and you don't have to have those specific apps. If the main thing you need is email and calendar, so that you know, these Zoom meetings, actually, if you've got your calendar set up and you accepted my invitation, they should show up on your calendar automatically.
Yes, sir. Mine does every day. It's
You
usually
get a-
about 20 minutes
usually like a
before the meeting starts.
Thing. So that's the best way to do it. You know, whether it's Google Calendar or your iPhone calendar, whatever you're using. Again, everybody's got their comfort zone, but you know, when we're doing this, you know, we need a way to stay on top. It's kind of hard when you're not going into a class every day. So sadly, a lot of the I don't want to say administrative, but at least organizational side of it's going to fall on y'all. You know, we're here to help and, get y'all going as best we can, but staying with a calendaring system and checking your email daily will go a long way with everything you do. So
Yes, sir.
if you've got nothing else, guys, I'm going to call it a day, and we'll try to get the recording up here in a little bit. And you know, shoot
Yeah,
us
there'll be a
topic.
quiz.
We'd really love to cover something y'all would like to hear.
All
Hey,
right, sir. Okay.
Yeah,
Is it going to be on YouTube?
It'll be on YouTube. I'll put a link, a YouTube video, and put a link to it in the Google Classroom.
Okay.
All right, y'all have a good one.
You too. Have a good day as
All right,
well,
have a good
Mr.
one.
Devin.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Devin.